appears designed to withstand an attack by unconventional weapons.
So now we're getting into the nerve centre of Gaddafi's bunker. And you can see here that he's really set up to withstand a nuclear apocalypse. He's got a whole air system down here. He's got emergency generators. And you can see that he's got air fans, fire alarm. If we look over here, all the different filters, water pumps, you see. He could quite possibly survive, or he could have survived down here for several months. And it's actually really interesting as well, when you look at some of these little stickers here, it's showing the maintenance that was run. You can actually see, look, the last test run on the 14th of January this year, test run okay. So this equipment was being seriously maintained and seriously kept up to date. And it would appear that it's all the work of a Swiss company called Lua. So here we've got an American company here. This is some kind of an air filter system. You see you've got all these kind of filter fabric here, this non-woven fabric that must have been to keep toxins or whatever out. And Dwyer Instruments, Michigan City, USA.
The living quarters include 2 bathrooms with flushing toilets. This concrete underworld gives a glimpse of the kind of paranoia which must exist in Gaddafi's inner circle.
And now we seem to have a kind of back exit or an emergency exit, if you like, this fixed ladder that will take us back up to the surface again.
Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera in eastern Libya.
Now, tribes in Libya's west are said to be rallying behind the uprising. Ali Taher is with the Alliance for the Western Mountain Area. He says the whole country is united in its aim of deposing Gaddafi.
There is no danger because the whole country is unified. They're united. Yes, it's a tribal society, but there is no fear there. Now with Facebook and the internet access, people are getting more educated. A lot of Libyans, go into the internet and see the world. They know about democracy and they want it here. They want it at home. Me myself, I studied abroad. I saw what the democracy is all about, and they just want to change this tyrant regime, this dictatorship that lasts for 42 years. People just can't fathom this, and they cannot fathom the fact that a guy who claims that he's not president for 42 years, and at the end of it, instead of sanctioning people, he's calling them rodents and hiring mercenaries to come off because they said no after 42 years.
Foreign migrant workers have been streaming across the border from Libya into neighboring Tunisia to escape the violence. They include many Africans who fled in fear of their lives. They're afraid of being mistaken for mercenaries. Nazanin Mosheri reports.
Libya is one of the most dangerous places in the world right now if you're black and African. Anti-government protesters thought Seydou Boubacar Jalou and his friend were mercenaries. Pro-Gaddafi forces targeted them for being foreigners. In the end, these Malians fled for their lives by night. They say the roads out of the west are still in the hands of those loyal to Gaddafi.
They were wearing army uniforms, they have berets, everything that an army has. They have Kalashnikovs, handguns, machetes, clubs. 15 kilometers from a small town, we saw a Libyan tank. The situation is very, very dangerous. Every day there are more than 100 who die. Every day there are shootings. The most dangerous situation is for foreigners like us, and also us, black people, because Gaddafi brought soldiers from Chad, from Niger. They are black and they are killing Arabs.
120 kilometers from this Tunisian border, Zawiya. The town is now in the hands of the people. But Egyptian refugees describe a bloody massacre on Thursday, which left many dead.
I was in Zawiya's Martyrs Square. There was a group of army men in the square who attacked the protesters. It was a very fierce confrontation. They were using heavy weapons, at least 15 to 20 dead, and I had footage of what happened, but the Libyan authorities on the border took my phone. Gaddafi wants to commit a crime with the absence of any media.
The problem for journalists right now is that this is as close as we can get to Western Libya. We have to rely on first-hand accounts of people coming across this border, many of them too frightened to talk about what's happening there. There are still very few Libyans crossing into Tunisia. Most of these people are Egyptian migrant workers who fear reprisals from Gaddafi forces if they ever return. Libya is where they found work and built their lives. They now have an uncertain future. Nazanin Bashiri, Al Jazeera, on the Tunisian-Libyan border.
The UN Security Council is meeting to consider sanctions against the Libyan ruler. The 6-page draft resolution claims Gaddafi ordered the repression of demonstrators and human rights abuses. The United Nations also looks to be targeting his children, given their association with the government. It also says military units they commanded were responsible for repressing protesters. 2 of Gaddafi's cousins are suspected of selling arms and terrorist activity. Then there's the Libyan leader's inner circle, which includes a brother-in-law who is the director of military intelligence. There's also the defense minister, military and intelligence personnel and loyalists. I'm joined now by Al Jazeera's Kristen Salumi, who's been following events at the United Nations. Kristen, the Security Council has been discussing this resolution almost the whole day. What kind of changes are they looking at?
Well, the main issue that they've been debating for more than 5 hours has to do with referring Libya to the International Criminal Court, and there's been a lot of back and forth about this today. The final draft resolution has just been released, and there are very few changes to the original draft that was proposed by France and the United Kingdom with the backing of Germany and the United States. It includes an immediate referral to the ICC of this situation that's going on. And it's interesting because there was a lot of back and forth about this. Some delegations were concerned that this might not have a good impact on the situation on the ground there. Some wanted a more nuanced approach to the International Criminal Court, perhaps suggesting that the Security Council would consider this at a later date if the situation on the ground, if the crackdown on protesters did not end. In the end, the Europeans were pushing very hard to have this referral to the ICC, and it made it into the final draft. This still has to be voted on. We're expecting a vote in a few hours' time. Apparently, what changed a lot of minds in the Council was a letter from the Libyan ambassador to the UN saying that the UN delegation, the Libyan UN delegation, did indeed support an immediate referral to the ICC. So that's what the debate has been about, and we should have a final vote in a couple of hours.
So, Kristen, the fact that that vote could take place, as you say, in a couple of hours, is that a signal that it's going to pass?
Well, apparently they're taking this break so that some members of the Security Council can refer back to their capitals and get final instructions. Apparently China still not clear on how they're going to vote on this. But the feeling among Western diplomats that you speak to is that there is a lot of solidarity in the room. There's a great sense of urgency, and they seem optimistic. They think it's going to pass, but until they're in there and that final vote is taken and all the hands are raised, we can't say for sure.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Kristen Salumi at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Now, Libya's uprising could shed new light on the murder of a dissident in London. It's thought the Libyan Secret Service were to blame. More on that in a moment. Stay with us.
Well, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes across Japan, the Korean Peninsula, as well as China over the next couple of days. Take a look at this, the forecast map for Sunday. Notice that Japan's not looking too bad. We're seeing Tokyo about 15 degrees. We're seeing Osaka about the same thing. But all of this massive clouds and rain over here across the Korean Peninsula, as well as China, is going to be moving in. Now, first of all, on Sunday, we're going to be seeing extreme amount of snow for the Korean Peninsula, anywhere from 300 to 400 millimeters of rain. Then as we go into Monday, then it all turns to rain. Most of Japan will be seeing some very heavy rain showers. Tokyo goes down to about 9 degrees, but very heavy rain showers all the way down to the south. Seoul will finally break out by the end of the day, but we'll still be seeing quite a bit of snow out here towards the west into parts of China. That is a good thing because of their drought situation that they're in right now. Down towards the southern part of China, still clouds in the forecast. Nothing is really going to change over the next couple of days. Actually, this is the next map. It looks identical to the one before. We're looking at temperatures of about 24 for Hong Kong, 23 for Hanoi, and 29 degrees, a little bit sunnier for Manila. Down towards Australia, though, that's where the big problems are going to be, especially up towards the north. Look at all this wet weather we have up towards the Northern Territory. Heavy flooding expected there, but the temperatures down to Adelaide finally start to cool off.
It is in the details, a look, a connection, the moments that reveal the truth. Witness documentaries to open your eyes at this time on Al Jazeera.
As protests, violence, and the call for political reform spreads across the Arab world, Al Jazeera's in-depth coverage of events on the ground brings you the news as it breaks. Ongoing coverage of the Libya uprising on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. The top story on Al Jazeera. In his strongest words yet to the Libyan leader, U.S. President Barack Obama has called for Colonel Muammar Gaddafi to leave now. It comes as the United Nations Security Council meets to consider measures against Gaddafi's government, but there is said to be discord over what form the draft resolution will take. And Libya's ex-Justice Minister Mustafa Mohammed Aboud al-Jalil says he's going to help form an interim government based in Benghazi. I'm joined now from Washington by Amira Woods, a specialist on foreign policy in Africa. Amira, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. This draft resolution is being discussed in the Security Council right now. It's looking at a set of sanctions, a set of measures which will be taken against the Libyan leader. Do you think it's going to have any effect?
Well, I think it is important to express the will of the international community. Clearly, if we move forward quickly with financial sanctions that clamp down on all of the accounts of all of those with the ruling party that are connected to Gaddafi and the family here in the United States, throughout the world, I think it is important to send that message of international, really international pressure, bringing to bear all of the forces to clamp down on the financial assets of the Libyan ruling